Have you ever wondered what happens after death? What if someone returned from there with a direct message from Jesus about the future of humanity? In today's story, a U.S. doctor dies for 18 minutes, and what she saw will shake your faith and open your spiritual eyes. Like, subscribe to the channel, and comment below which city you're watching from. Let's spread this truth. My name is Dr. Evelyn Morse. I have 39 years old, and I work as an intensive care physician in Denver, Colorado. If you're seeing this, it's because I survived. But what I experienced during those 18 minutes, my heart stopped, changed everything I believed about God, reality, and the future of humanity. I was infected by a rare and mutant variant of the C26 virus, a subtype that appeared in isolation in our hospital, still unnamed, but with devastating effects on the nervous system. I was one of the first to study it, and I was one of the first victims. The collapse was sudden. I was on duty. I started feeling a slight dizziness, a high-pitched sound in my ears, like a metallic buzzing, and then nothing. I was later told that I went into full cardiac arrest for almost 20 minutes, while colleagues desperately tried to revive me. But as my body struggled, my conscience was ripped out with indescribable violence. It was like being sucked into myself, as if my soul had been pulled by an invisible cable. And then, the silence. An emptiness so absolute it made the earth's silence seem deafening. I had no body. I had no name. I felt no fear, just absence. But I wasn't alone for long. Why he appeared, and when I say appeared, it wasn't as a vision, a mental image, or a symbolic figure. It was Jesus Christ, as real as the sound of your own breathing right now. But he didn't walk up to me. He emerged from his own silence, as if made of the essence of truth. His eyes were not eyes. They were eternal mirrors, portals to everything I'd ever been, everything I'd hidden, and everything I'd forgotten about myself. He didn't ask me anything. He just called by name. But it was not my earthly name. It was as if he had called me by a name that existed before my existence, a pure, heavenly sound, which vibrated in every atom of my immortal being. In his presence, all the pain in the world was taken away from me in an instant. And then he said, "The world is lying to you." These were the first words I heard, and in that moment, I understood. Jesus didn't come to comfort me. He came to show me something the world needs to hear, urgently. When Jesus said to me, "The world is lying to you," I felt as if the very fabric of reality had ripped apart before me. It wasn't a metaphor. He wasn't talking about politics, religion, or the media, at least, not directly. He spoke of the invisible structure that controls our emotions, our decisions, and our perception of reality. Jesus took me to a place that wasn't really a place. It was like being out of time, suspended in a living vastness. There was no ground, no sky, no limits, but there were visions, many, one after another. Ua Earth, our planet, wrapped in pulsating black cloud, like a living layer of electric smoke, an energy field vibrating at a low frequency. The air around her felt suffocating, charged with fear, hatred, ego, and despair. It was as if the world was covered in a poisonous web made of destructive thoughts. Jesus said, "This is the frequency of the lie. It grows with every thought of separation, every judgment, every fear fed." And then, like a cinematic revelation, I saw scenes of Earth in real time. I saw ordinary people going about their daily lives, a father yelling at his son over a mess, a young woman silently cutting herself in a bathroom, an elderly man crying alone in front of the TV. In all of them, the same expression, silent despair. But the scariest part was yet to come. Jesus pointed, not with his finger but with his own intention, and showed me the origins of the cloud. And what I saw made me tremble, even without having a physical body. We groups gathered in dark places, connecting through machines, exchanging data, laughing coldly. They knew exactly what they were doing. They knew how to manipulate mass emotions. They talked about algorithms, neural impulses, dopamine, and polarization. Their words were not human. They were mathematicians. Jesus said to me, "They are not monsters. They are just deaf to the music. They have forgotten who they are." And in that instant, I understood. The great enemy is not a physical being. It is an energy field, a distortion, An emotional simulation designed to keep us disconnected from who we truly are. I asked, mentally, but why? Who created this? Jesus answered, fear created this, and you feed it every day. The pain was profound. I saw my own life, every time I failed to forgive, every time I harbored anger, every moment I chose to ignore someone because I was too tired. Each of these micro-choices fed the cloud, but then he showed me something else, the truth. He raised one hand, and out came a sound, not a word. It was like a pure, heavenly chord that began to tear through the black cloud like a blade of vibrant gold. And that's when Jesus revealed, there is a forgotten melody, an original frequency, the sound of heaven. It still lives within you. When you love, when you serve, when you give, you sing this melody, and it cuts through the lies. And then I saw what he wanted me to see, the future. Jesus didn't use words to show me the future. He conveyed the truth as one who inserts light within light. You absorbed what was to come, and honestly, I don't know if I'm ready to tell everything I saw, but he said to me, you saw that you should speak. Speak without fear. So here it is. What I saw wasn't a movie, nor a linear timeline. It was as if all the possibilities were being played at once, like the strings of a cosmic instrument. But there was a main thread, a clear path, the path we are following now. I saw the next decades. I saw the world plunge into a deafening noise. The cities were full of people, and at the same time, no one looked each other in the eyes anymore. I saw people locked in their own minds, trapped in fabricated realities, completely disconnected from the world around them. The screens, cell phones, glasses, chips, whatever, no longer showed reality, but distorted versions, customized to fuel fear, competition, and isolation. And most shockingly, people called it freedom. Jesus was by my side. No condemnation, no judgment, just sadness. They believed the lie that they were separate, that they needed to overcome each other. And now, they're drowning in the sound they created. Climate crises increase in a radical way, not just natural disasters, but mass emotional breakdowns. It was as if the earth was screaming for balance, while humans, they anesthetize themselves with increasingly intense distractions. But then, I saw a breakup, a turning point, not caused by governments or great leaders, but by children. I saw an entire generation is born already hearing the melody of God. Children with intense eyes, calm, sensitive. They couldn't stand noise. They naturally rejected violence, falsehood, and excess. These children began to recognize each other by the look, by the vibration, as if they had already met on another plane. Jesus looked at me and said, they are the tuners of the earth. They have come to remind the world of their song. I saw one of these children touch the hand of a man in despair, and a light came from her touch, tearing through the layer of static around his heart. He began to cry, not out of sadness, but because he finally remembered who he was. And at that moment, thousands of lights began to flash across the planet. A silent revolution, spiritual, invisible, but absolutely real. These tuners began to band together, guided by intuition. Some became artists, others doctors, others simple gardeners or teachers, but they all had one thing in common. They didn't act out of fear, they acted out of love, always. Jesus showed me that this net, this truth choir, would grow, and that even when the darkness seemed total, a single true chord of sincere love would still be enough to tear the veil. The end will not be destruction, he said. It will be a revelation. And at that moment, I saw a flash, a cosmic moment in which all of humanity would have the chance to hear at the same time. A moment of forced silence, perhaps because of something catastrophic, perhaps because of something beautiful. I don't know. But in the midst of this silence, his voice would echo within every soul. And then, each one would have to choose, continue the noise or remember the song. After Jesus showed me the future, that moment of choice, that universal pause in which every soul would hear the voice of God within itself, I asked, what if the many choose noise? What if the majority choose fear over truth? He looked at me, and in that look was the pain of Eden lost, the pain of every crusade waged in his name, of every forgotten child, of every prayer offered in desperation and never answered as expected. But along with the pain, there was hope, indestructible hope. Truth doesn't need the majority. It needs willing hearts. He reached out his hand, and this time touched me. His touch was not a physical sensation. It was like being seen right down to the bone of your soul. I felt the full weight of my life, every lie I told, every fear I hid, every time I smiled at the world while dying inside. But what surprised me was what he did not do. He did not accuse me, did not shame me. Instead, he showed me something that almost made me fall to my knees, even without having a body, my real self. I saw a version of myself I never knew, a being of intense light, formed of love, courage, compassion, and purity. Not perfection, but essence. Essa Evelyn, Era the melody that God wrote when he first dreamed me. And then, I understood. The big lie is not just fear. It's oblivion. The most destructive force on earth, it is not hate, nor war, nor disease. It is the simple forgetfulness of who we are, about what we were created to love, about what we are part of him. Jesus then took me to a different place. It looked like an infinite room, made of liquid light, but each beam of light was a soul. Thousands, millions, perhaps billions of points of consciousness floating in harmony, all connected, all singing a soundless but perceptible melody. There, I understood what heaven is. Not a place, but a state of complete connection with God and with everyone else. And then Jesus whispered something that I will carry with me until my last day on this earth. You are not humans trying to be spiritual. They are spiritual beings living a brief human moment. The phrase echoed within me with overwhelming force. I looked at my whole life, the surgeries, the shifts, the sleepless days, the mistakes, the fears, and I realized that it was all part of a bigger plan, a plan not of control, but of evolution. He showed me that pain has purpose, not because God creates it, but because he transforms her. Suffering is the drum that awakens the sleeping soul, but love is the sound that guides it back home. And then something changed. I felt urgency vibrating in the air, the feeling that time was running out, that I needed to go back. But I didn't want to. How would anyone return to the world after feeling their own eternal name being spoken by Jesus? I remember thinking, I can't go back. Not after this. Not after seeing who I really am. What awaited me on the other side was pain, limits, tiredness, routine, noise. Here, in the presence of Jesus, I was whole, I was eternal, I was true. But he knew what I was feeling. He always knew. Do you believe that your life on earth is less than this glory? But it is precisely there that its light shines most strongly. I was trembling inside. My body was gone, but there was emotion. So much emotion I could barely contain it. And then, Jesus showed me my body. See you at dinner. My body was inert, cold, intubated in the ICU of the hospital where I worked. Desperate colleagues trying to bring me back. A young resident, hands shaking, crying as he administered adrenaline. The head of the ICU, who never showed emotions, with red eyes and hands in prayer. And then, I saw something that broke me. My sister, sitting in the waiting room, screaming at God. You already took my mother. Don't take her too. She held a rosary in her hand but did not pray. She begged. It was at that moment that Jesus showed me the other side of pain. They think they are alone when they suffer, but their pain touches heaven. And then I saw it. Each tear shed in despair rose like golden sparks, and those sparks became notes in the great song. Even the rawest, most silent suffering was heard, and it was used. Nothing was wasted. You need to tell them this, he told me. They think they are only heard when they pray beautifully, but I hear them when they scream, when they cry, when all they can say is help me. And what's more, I answer. My soul broke. I knew that could not stay, but the idea of walking away from him, from the music, from the fullness, was like throwing myself off a cliff of light into a dark cave. Jesus approached. This time, yes, with an almost human gesture. He touched my forehead, and in that touch, he deposited something, a frequency, a mission, a memory. You will take this with you, not as a memory, but as a brand. Every time you close your eyes, you will feel the echo of my name in you. Then, with a look that carried the weight of 1,000 universes, he said, Evelyn, Go back and remind them of the truth. The noise that surrounds them is fleeting. The love that created them is eternal. And that's when everything tore. The moment Jesus said, "Come back," it was like being thrown back through a portal made of sound and light. But that portal hurt. Not a physical pain. It was a separation pain. As if my soul was being ripped in half. I was being sucked back in by the veil. This veil is not just a barrier between the spiritual and physical worlds. It's a filter, a light reducer. Returning through the veil meant forget parts of the fullness. It meant carrying the weight of limitation again. I struggled. I begged silently, "Please, don't let me forget. Don't let me forget who I am." And I heard his last answer, like a whisper engraved in the core of my soul. "You will not forget, because I will be the living memory within you." At that moment, the fall has begun. I felt as if I were being squeezed, as if I were passing through a narrow tunnel made of spiritual pressure. The sound of the melody became increasingly distant, until only noise, chaos, confusion. It was like falling into a raging sea of sirens, muffled screams, and harsh white lights. I felt something invading my throat. It was the breathing tube. My body was back. The pain was immediate. Physical pain, emotional pain, pain of absence. My chest burned, as if it had been crushed. My eyes burned from the cold light of the ICU. But worst of all was the feeling of emptiness, of leaving home, and waking up in a forgotten world. I heard voices. "She's back. My God, she's responding. Evelyn, Evelyn, me Uve." Someone was holding my hand. I saw wide eyes, tears of relief, wet masks of crying. My sister. She was shaking so much she could barely speak. You came back, Jesus. Thank you, thank you, thank you." I wanted to answer. I wanted to say, "I have seen him. He is alive. He is the truth." But I could only blink. And in that blink, I remembered. He had left his mark. Even in that tired, intubated, sedated body, his presence still vibrated within me. It was subtle, but real, like a note playing softly in the depths of the soul, a melody that no one else heard, but that would guide me forever. In the hours, or days, that followed, I lay there, motionless in the ICU bed, looking like just one survivor among many. But inside, something had been rewritten. As doctors assessed my vital signs and family members took turns at my bedside, I was silent, listening to the frequency that Jesus had left in me. It was like a living spark pulsing deep in my chest, a mission in the form of sound. I didn't know yet how to put it into words. How can we explain that the world we see is just a surface? How can we say that there is an original sound, a vibration of pure love that creates, sustains, and heals everything, and that were we made to sing along with him? Doctors said my return was medically unexplained. "You shouldn't have woken up. Your brain must have suffered permanent damage." It's a miracle, but no miracle is just to be admired. Miracles carry burdens, and I knew what mine was. Awaken those who are still sleeping. It was one morning, alone, with only the beeping of the monitors as a soundtrack, that I realized I didn't come back to survive. I came back to testify. The words began to form within me, as if heaven itself breathed them into my thoughts. "They're distracted, Evelyn. They are so connected to everything that they have lost themselves. Teach them to listen again. Teach them to be silent. Teach them to remember." I remembered what Jesus showed me, the earth covered in static, but also off threads of light piercing this darkness, made by simple, small, and invisible acts. And then I understood the most important thing. There is no great Savior who will come and solve everything. The miracle is collective. Salvation is in the hands and in the heart of each one. Every time you forgive instead of taking revenge, every time you listen carefully instead of shouting, every time you help without expecting anything in return, you sing God's song. And that song, that ancient, eternal melody, it's the only sound that noise can't drown out. After I understood that I came back to testify, I began to feel the world with different eyes, or perhaps with different ears, because everything in me was in tune with that original sound. It was strange. People would come to visit me, colleagues, friends, distant relatives, and say, "You look different. There's something in your eyes. It seems like you know something we don't." And that was exactly it. I knew. You had heard the sound behind the sound, the melody behind the chaos. Outside, the news continued. More crises, more division, more fear being sold as truth. But in me, there was a powerful silence, not a silence of escape, but a silence of clarity. And in that silence, one phrase always echoed: teach them to listen. I started to notice simple things. A nurse silently held an elderly woman's hand, a tired woman cleaning the floor, but stopping for a moment to carefully adjust another patient's pillow. There was the song. There was the truth. Jesus showed me that heaven is not just a place you go to. It is a sound you hear, and that we are tuned or out of tune by our daily choices. I woke up one day still in the hospital, and everything seemed normal. The sound of machines, hurried footsteps, murmurs in the corridors. But I heard something else. A note. Low, vibrant, constant. It was as if someone was plucking a single invisible string, and it resonated within me with a question. Are you listening, or just hearing? From then on, I started looking at everyone around me with a new intention. Not with judgment, but with spiritual perception. I saw people stuck in loops of suffering, and I realized hell is not a place underground. It is the constant noise that prevents the soul from remembering who it is. And when I asked Jesus, there inside my heart, what do I say to those who don't believe any of this? The answer came like a soft thunder. Don't try to convince. Live in such a way that the presence of my truth in you becomes impossible to ignore. And in that instant, I realized the mission was not to preach. It was to vibrate. Vibrate so loudly that the souls around begin, even without understanding, to remember the original melody. And that melody, it is He. The first night at home was almost unbearable. Not because of the physical pain, although the body still bears scars from what happened, but because the silence in my house. It was too noisy. The refrigerator was making noise. The clock, the traffic in the distance, the muffled sound of a neighbor's television. Everything seemed to be screaming. But the worst noise was the one inside. The thoughts, the mind trying to rationalize everything I experienced. Was it real? Was it just the brain dying? Have I been deceived by myself? But then I remembered what Jesus told me before He came back. I will be the living memory inside you. I closed my eyes that morning, lying in my bed, still weak, and asked silently, "Are you still there?" And the answer was not a sentence. It was a sound. That same pure, familiar note, vibrating low but constant, like an invisible current of peace. It was Him. It always was. And there, alone in the dark, I cried for the first time since I got back. Not of pain, but of gratitude. Because in that moment I understood the deepest truth He had shown me. The presence of God is not absent. We are the ones who have become deaf. The world is deaf. Deaf with fear, with haste, with distraction. But that could change. And I felt that my mission was not just to tell what I saw. It was about becoming a living reminder that it is still possible to hear. Since then, I have been paying attention to the little noises of life, the laughter of a child, the sound of rain on the glass, the sound of the kettle heating water, and in all of them, there is an echo of Him. I realize that we don't need to die to hear from heaven. We just need turn off the noise we create and remember the sound we carry, why the song is still here. The note Jesus put on me responds whenever I see an act of love, of forgiveness, of silent sacrifice. Every time someone chooses to love, even without recognition, it's as if a spiritual instrument is playing in unison with me. And that is heaven echoing on earth. So if you're listening to this right now, if you feel like there's something wrong with the world but you don't know what, if you feel like you're surrounded by noise but you miss a sound you can't explain, it's because you've heard it. You just forgot. And I came back to remind you. Today, I walk through the world in a different way, not because I'm better, but why I heard the note. I saw the truth. And once you hear God's song, you never fit in with the noise again. Coming back was not easy. It is not easy to live among people knowing what is behind the veil, seeing so much pain, so much haste, so many people running to nowhere, so many souls that just want to be seen, heard, loved. But Jesus showed me that it's not noise that defines reality, it's choice. And at any time you can choose, react with fear or respond with love, give in to anger or reach out, feed the noise or vibrate the melody. Today, when I close my eyes, I still hear the note. It's there, like an ember that never goes out. It's soft but indestructible. It's invisible, but real. It is silent. but more powerful than any scream. Jesus didn't give me a religion. He gave me a frequency, and he told me that every human being carries a unique note within themselves, a part of the divine song. When you act with love, you play that note, and the whole heaven resonates with you. This is the truth he revealed. It's not a mystical secret. It is not reserved for saints, nor for theologians. It's for everyone. For the mother who wakes up at 5 a.m. to feed her children. For the elderly man holding his wife's hand in the hospital. For the young man who holds back tears, but still gets up. These are the invisible singers of God's song. And you also have a note. You feel it, don't you? This nameless longing, this feeling that there is something greater waiting to be remembered. This is the note trying to vibrate. Jesus showed me that what is coming will still shake the world. More noise, more fear, more divisions. But he also showed that the song will not be silenced. She is growing up. And when the time comes, those who heard the note will be the ones to guide the others home. I died. I saw the other side. And I came back with a single mission. Remind you who you are. You are loved. You are part of the song. And the maestro is waiting for you to sing your note. Because it's not final. It's not the noise that wins. It is love that does not remain silent. If you enjoyed this beautiful spiritual testimony, please leave a like, comment, share your impressions, subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to turn on the notification bell to watch each new video and help us spread this message to a greater number of people. Until next time.